welcome back to Draft Nights. And, it's a wonderful, wonderful day because just a couple of days ago, the NFL draft happened. It's in our name. We have to talk about it.
It's time. I'm so excited. I really feel like this is what we've been building up towards. So it's finally time to make it happen. Let's do it.
So today we wanted to cover all of the round one picks by NFC teams and then in a couple of days we'll do the AFC teams. We want to just start with round one. We'll review round two, three, and potentially further from that in the coming weeks. But right now we want to just hit the top picks, see how they're going to impact their teams, and really dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited.
Okay, so we're going to go by division. So apologies if we're bouncing around from team to team and pick to pick. So
there was a
we're
lot
going to start out.
There was a lot that
Yeah.
happened. So,
Yeah. We're going to start out with the Philadelphia Eagles, who at the 20th overall pick selected Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC. And immediately, what was your reaction, Sam?
I thought it was a good pick. I feel like that is an area where the Eagles can definitely improve. I think it's a little interesting that they didn't go more the rushing route, as their team was a lot lower in rush yards last year. But that being said, I think Lemon's a great pick. I think he's going to add a lot to their offense. And also, when, they're losing a big player like A.J. Brown like they did a year or two ago, these are players that they need to replace. And I think Lemon has the ability to really replace them. And I think he has a lot of potential for the future.
Yeah. I think so A.J. Brown has not been traded quite yet, but it feels like the writing's on the wall. And, I think we'll get into Lemon being his replacement in a second, but just going over his stats. So he's 5'11", 192. This last season he had about 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, and was an All-American. Now, I want to stay on the A.J. Brown point because one of the key differences is that Mekhi Lemon is not an X receiver, meaning that he's not really playing on the outside. He was a slot receiver. He played mainly over the middle, doing quick routes, and would whenever he got over the middle to go deep, he was never attacking the outside really. And that's not what A.J. Brown was. A.J. Brown was a true X receiver, beat the man on the outside, be physical, tough, fast, sometimes break over the middle, but really try and just win that one-on-one.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like to an extent you can't have an exact replacement for a guy like A.J. Brown. He's just a really physical wide receiver. And I think that's not a bad thing, especially for Philly, a team that often is looked at as just a quicker team, more of a ground team almost. I think this is going to be a good thing for them. And I think that Lemon's ability to really outrun his defenders, I think that's going to be big for them. Like you said, he's not a huge dude, 5'11", 190. So really, I think that the Eagles are going to find a lot of success with him in that slot position. And the fact that they're not going to have, a big, deep threat, massive, physical wide receiver, I don't think that's actually going to do them a lot of harm. I think they're going to find a lot of success by being the smaller, faster team that we've seen a couple of times in the past. And then you throw on top of that Saquon and Jalen Hurts, and I think that there's going to be a lot of success from this offense.
Now, we have seen recently the rise of the slot receiver. You see Puka Nacua play out of the slot a lot. You see Amon St. Brown dominating out of the slot. And I really think Mekhi Lemon can do that. He's very shifty, great at running his routes, gets out of the break, super fast. He's small enough where he can he gets to the ground really fast if it's a low pass, but he has the speed and he has the agility to really create space. However, there's one concern that I have about him going to the Eagles. So, over this offseason, the Eagles hired Sean Mannion out of the Packers organization to be their new offensive coordinator. Now, Mannion's never had an offensive coordinator role that we can really draw from, but we do know is that Matt LaFleur, the Packers head coach and play caller, does not do a lot of throws to slot receivers. In fact, just last season, of Jordan Love's 439 pass attempts, only 23 of them were to slot receivers. And that's where I kind of get concerned. Now, does this mean that Sean Mannion is going to run the same offense as LaFleur? No, of course not. But if that's his like tutor, if that's like his boss from these past couple of years that he's been learning under, I'm a little bit worried for Mekhi Lemon, who is a dominant slot receiver, but really doesn't have the skill set to translate in the Y or the X wide receiver positions. I'm worried how his production's going to look.
I actually disagree with you on that one. I wouldn't worry too much about it. And the reason why I say that is because with the start of every season, you're going to see teams changing up their offensive schemes just a little bit. And like you said, there's not a lot of offensive coordinator experience in his past. And so because of that, I wouldn't be too nervous about finding a spot for Lemon. Like you said, he really is that shifty wide receiver that can be an asset regardless. And so I think that they're going to find a place for him regardless of what it is. But I wouldn't be too concerned about the idea that there weren't many throws to slot receivers in Green Bay, especially just because the Eagles have such a different offensive style than most other teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I think we're going to see him adapt nicely. And I think it'll be very clear within the first year if he fits in with the offensive scheme or not. My initial guess is that he will. And the reason why I say that is because the Eagles took him 10th. They knew what they were doing. This was a big pick for them. And so they had clearly discussed prior to it what his role would be, meaning they knew that they were taking a slot receiver. There's nothing that says that he's a big X or Y receiver. He is a slot guy. And so because of that, the Eagles knew exactly what they were getting into. There are no secrets here. And I wouldn't be too concerned about how he's used.
Yeah. Also, correction on my part. I did not Y receiver, sorry, Z receiver. But moving on, because, we got a lot of teams to get through. I want to talk about, I think, my favorite player out of this draft. Going to, unfortunately, the Dallas Cowboys at pick 11, Caleb Downs. Oh my goodness. Safety out of Ohio State, 5'11", 206 pounds. I love this guy. I love his game.
I mean, this is one of the best picks that the Cowboys could have made, if not the best pick that they could have made. He is just absolutely dominant in the secondary. The Cowboys needed this desperately. They took their moment and they made it so worth it. He's just so smart on the field, and I think that Downs is going to bring so much talent to this Cowboys team. Again, I hate to say it, being a Giants fan, I don't want to see it, but he is so talented in the secondary. His instincts are incredible, and we saw it all throughout his college career. I think it's going to translate beautifully to the NFL, and I think it's going to translate beautifully really to the Cowboys. I think they can kind of build their secondary around him now. They don't have a lot going for them right now, and this is a huge pick for them. It's going to be huge in the future. I think he's got tons of potential. I think he has tons of talent. This is just a great pick.
If anyone listening has not really looked into Caleb Downs' game enough, just to put in perspective, when the Cowboys took Caleb Downs, there's a clip of Giant star wide receiver Malik Neighbors saying, "Oh my God, I have to play that thing." He is that good. He is a star. He's a 2-time All-American. He was the anchor of that already amazing Ohio State defense. Just to put into perspective, this guy can play at an elite level in the box against the run. He's amazing in support in coverage, both deep and in the intermediate. He's able to guard slot wide receivers and sometimes Z's one-on-one, which is absolutely super valuable as a as a safety. And he hits like a truck. He hits so hard. He's so smart that even though he's not the most athletic of players, he is dominant. It is impossible to watch. Honestly, I think this is the best safety to come out of any draft since maybe Ed Reed. I think he's better than Kyle Hamilton. I think he's better than Buda Baker ever was. I think this guy is going to be a perennial All-Pro.
I think the scary part about him is that, yes, he has all of those assets, but then also he's so fast. And he's a big
Hmm.
guy for how fast he is. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. This is a fast guy. And when you get a fast safety that hits as hard as Caleb Downs, that is scary. And so,
And then
yeah,
combined with how smart he is, oh my
exactly. As a
goodness.
Giants fan, I am not thrilled with this pick at all. But oh my goodness, Caleb Downs is a fantastic talent. The Cowboys, if they can't find success with him, then they're doing something wrong because this guy just has
Yeah.
so much talent that you can find success anywhere with him.
This guy, I mean, he's going into a team that was 32nd in the league in pass defense, dead last. They needed secondary help, and they got not just the best secondary player in the draft, but in my opinion, the best player in the draft overall.
It's a bold statement. It's a bold statement.
I stand by it.
We'll get into
I
mine later.
love Caleb
But
Downs.
I would say in terms of secondary, he's far and away
Mm.
the best player in the draft. And just in terms of defense, if he's not one, then he is easily a top three. This guy is so good.
Well, moving on to his teammates, because in this one division, 3 Ohio State defenders were taken. At the 7th overall pick, the Washington Commanders selected Sonny Styles, the linebacker out of Ohio State. 6'5", 244, ran a 4.4640, had a crazy vert, one of the longest broad jumps in the whole combine history. This guy is the term freak athlete gets thrown out a lot, especially with these round one guys. This is one of the freakiest athletes to ever come onto the NFL.
I mean, he's a big dude. He's fast. You said it. You saw it with his 40 time. You've seen it throughout his entire college career. Every single defender coming out of Ohio State is dominant, don't get me wrong. But the combo of Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs are just out of this world. The idea that they played together and the fact that they're now going to play
There's
against each other
there's also one more.
yeah,
that's
there's
coming
another
up
one
soon.
too. And I think personally, for what Washington needs, he's the perfect pick for them. Obviously, the Cowboys, they needed that secondary. I think Downs was their guy. But Sonny Styles is going to be so crucial for this Commanders team. He's going to be so good for them. And they already really have a lot of the offense that they need. They're looking for the defense right now, and they found it in Sonny Styles. He's really going to be good. He's at that linebacker spot. He's going to be leading this defense, and I think he can do it even in his first year. First of all, just his presence is outrageous on the field. He has such a field presence. He knows exactly what's going on at all times. And then how quick he is on the field. It's just going to be dominant. Again, I said it about Downs. It's going to translate to the NFL. He's going to be really, really good for Washington. And the NFC East has really upped their game here.
Yeah. So, speaking on like Washington's issues, so we saw 2 years ago they made the NFC Championship game. This last year they took a step back, and a lot of people will immediately point to, oh, Jane Daniels was injured, Terry McLaurin was injured, but that's not the only reason. Last season, Washington let up 384 yards per game. That is dead last in the league. Not only that, they were also the third worst team against the run. Not only is this a team that is desperate for defense, a team that's desperate for run defense. And an athlete, not just an athlete, a smart athlete like Sonny Styles, who last season had 82 tackles, 6.5 TFLs, a sack, and only missed 2 tackles the entirety of last season. This is someone who is just plug and play. He's a true linebacker. He plugs the running lanes. He used to be a safety, so he's able to cover in against tight ends and sometimes even slot receivers. See how fast he is. So he has those coverage skills. He has those run defense skills. This is like the closest you could get to the next Fred Warner if you were trying to find one right out of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. We've all seen it. The Washington defense last year was abysmal.
It was garbage.
There's no other way to say it, unfortunately. 384 yards per game. The worst in the NFL. The worst that I've seen in a very long time. they needed someone on defense, and it's so easy to blame offenses. That's just a constant theme that really we'll see throughout the entire draft so far. People often will just blame an offense if a team's not doing well, but especially in this division, the NFC East, it's the defenses that have really been costing these teams games. And so to see a guy like this be taken so early, and yes, QBs are the ones that make a fan base go nuts, but these types of players, Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, these types of players, they're going to make bigger impacts, and they're what a team needs. And so, yeah, you'd love to see your team always take a running back or a QB. They're fun to watch. They just are. But these are the players that are necessary to get further, and especially for this Commanders team, they need a linebacker right now.
Honestly, I disagree with you there on the fact that it's not fun to watch. Sonny Styles is so fun to watch. You see, like, every single play you're watching, it's like, oh, Sonny Styles was there. He did something. He made that tackle. Oh, there was a run to the outside. Sonny Styles just ran across the entire field laterally to go take him. Oh, that was a pass breakup over the middle to that tight end. Guess who was there? Sonny Styles, the former safety, now linebacker. He is the prototypical linebacker, which is very different from this next player.
Let this
Do
be
you
a
want
note
to start it off?
as we get ready to introduce this next player. And no, because you've been introducing them all, so I'll let you keep going. But a reminder to everybody watching, the fact that we got to witness the 2025 Ohio State defense is a magical thing, okay?
It's absurd that they didn't win the national
thousands,
title.
if not millions of years in history. The fact that we are alive when the 2025 Ohio State defense was on the field, that is a magical thing, and that is a beautiful thing. So, Ethan, with that, I'll let you take it away. But
Caden McDonald didn't even go in the first round. This team, I think history will look back on this 2025 Ohio State team and go, how did this team not win? And especially, so we've been talking up Caleb Downs. We've been talking up Sonny Styles. This last guy might end up being better than both, and he was also on defense. Taken 5th overall by the New York Football Giants, Arvell Reese, the linebacker / edge from Ohio State, of course, 6'4", 241, and ironically also runs a 4.46 40. As the resident Giants fan, why don't you take it off for this guy?
I love this pick. Oh my goodness, I love this pick so much. The Giants' rush defense was second worst in the NFL last year. They gave up 145 yards per game. That is just terrible. But
yeah,
Arvell Reese is dominant. You mentioned that there are a lot of fantastic players from that Ohio State team. Somehow Reese was taken first out of all of them, which just gives credit to how good the team was, because any one of those 3 players could be the highest up. But like the Commanders and like the Cowboys, the Giants picked the one that fits their style best in what they need best. Arvell Reese, so fast, so good up the gut. He's going to be fantastic for this rush defense that needs a lot of help. And the Giants already have a lot of the offense that they need. They had a bunch of injuries last year. That's why you couldn't really see it all work out. But this year, if they have a fully healthy team and Reese comes into the league and does what fans and what coaches know he's capable of doing, this Giants team is going to be really, really good, in my opinion, which is something I have not been able to say in a long time. It makes me really happy to say. I think that the Giants got their missing piece, and I think the fact that we may or may not talk about it later in this episode, the fact that they kind of kept it going throughout the draft, this is going to be a big year for the Giants if they can stay healthy, and Arvell Reese is just going to be leading that defense.
Yeah, I think one of the maybe things that's going to get lost as time goes on, Arvell Reese was the projected number 2 overall pick pretty much the entire process. I audibly went, whoa, when David Bailey got taken at 2. That's no disrespect to David Bailey. Amazing player. We'll talk about him in the AFC episode. But Arvell Reese is kind of a different level. And I know just a second ago we were talking about Sonny Styles. This is the prototypical linebacker, and I stand by that. But what makes Arvell Reese, in my opinion, better is that he's not the prototypical linebacker. A lot of people projected that he's going to play edge. A lot of people also predicted that he's going to play off-ball linebacker. This is a guy who can play both. That versatility makes him such a great weapon. They can line him up on the edge in some plays, but then drop him into coverage for others. He can play over the middle. He can play on the outside. He can be a blitzer. He can be a container. He can be a spy. He can play anywhere in that front. I bet you could put him at D tackle. This is like, and that kind of plug and play ability opens up this new Giants playbook for defense in a completely different way that no other team really can have.
And I'll add on to that also, the Giants got a little bit of criticism for this pick just because they have a couple of linebackers already, Thibodeaux, Edmonds, Burns, just to name a couple of them. But it's worth noting, despite these are linebackers, you cannot deny the fact that their rush defense was not up to par last year.
It was
and
not.
So while there can be criticism in the idea of maybe he was necessary, maybe he wasn't, you cannot deny the stats, and you can't deny looking at that team and saying they need a defensive weapon, and they got their defensive weapon. The fact that Reese was still on the board when it was pick number 5 is a little nuts in my mind, but you cannot let that pick go untouched. And the fact that the Giants saw that and pounced on it is exactly what they needed to do. They needed a defensive weapon, and they got their defensive weapon.
Yeah, just last season, Arvell Reese had 69. He had 69 tackles, 10 TFLs, 6.5 sacks, and was an All-American. And I like what you mentioned about the Giants, because last season, Brian Burns had 16.5 sacks, was one of the most in the league. Abdul Carter got taken 3rd overall the year before, had 4.5 sacks, but started really picking it up at the end of the year. The reason why I'm so excited for Arvell Reese to go to the Giants is that the Giants don't need a franchise-saving edge. They don't need someone to go in and get them like 15 sacks a season because, one, that's not what Arvell Reese really does best, and two, that's not using it, like that's not what the Giants are looking for. They have their like franchise-defining edges, which allows them to use Arvell Reese in what he's best at, which is his versatility, his blitzing ability, and his run defense. And I think this is probably the best landing spot that Reese could have gone to. Because I think if he went to the Jets, they would try to turn him into a full-time edge rusher because that's where the most value is. Like, theoretically, even though I don't think that's the most value from him.
Sure. Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I think that he's also going to be able to learn a lot on this Giants team. It's a young team. Just everyone on it is a very young player. And so I think that the idea that they can all work together for so long into the future, and we've already seen a lot of development from players like Jackson Dart, who's still so young in his career, Cam Scatterbo, Malik Neighbors. All these guys are young players. And so this Giants team is going to be super young. Yeah, they might struggle for 1 year, but I think they have so much talent, and if they can progress and they can be coached the right way, then that's where you're going to see so much success from them in the future.
And speaking on young players from the Giants had a second pick in the first round, number 10 overall, which they got in the trade for Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals, where they selected Francis Mauanoga from the Miami Hurricanes, offensive tackle. He's 6'5", 329 pounds, was an All-American. I think in a lot of ways this pick is going to be looked at in relation to the Dexter Lawrence trade because they gave up arguably the best defensive tackle in the NFL for what's going to be a rookie offensive tackle. As a Giants fan, what's your opinion on this all?
So here's where I stand on this. As far as the Dexter Lawrence trade, I'd need a different episode to talk about that. A lot of feelings, but I think obviously he asked for the trade, so you can't do a ton about that. That's just kind of how it landed. But I think what they did with that is really good. The Giants gave up the 9th most amount of sacks in the NFL last year. Their O-line has been a problem for almost a decade now. It's just something that's continually needed to be worked on, and they finally got an O-tackle. It's like I was saying a little bit earlier, like you said, The Ohio State defense was fun to watch, but it's going to be QBs, running backs, wide receivers that typically get most of the popularity. The Giants got themselves an O tackle that's going to be necessary and that's going to be really crucial for them in the future if they want to see their run game continue to thrive.
Yeah. And looking at Mauanoga's stats from PFF, he had an 87 pass block rating, a 79.4 run block rating, and an 83.6 overall rating, which was one of the highest among offensive tackles throughout the entirety of college football. Now, he is really, really good. He's fast on his feet, which is not typical of these bigger linemen. He has a huge kickback, is able to get back in his stance super quickly, create a lot of space. He is super strong, even at his size. Even though he's not like one of the tallest offensive tackles, he is very, very strong. And he's able to anchor down against bull rushes. He's able to use his quick feet to adjust against finesse rushes or quickness. However, he's not a perfect prospect. He has some shorter arms, only 33 and 1/4 inches. And, this last season was kind of the season of offensive tackles with shorter arms. We saw Will Campbell in the Super Bowl, and the rest of the playoffs kind of get eaten alive, mainly due to his shorter arms. He wasn't able to create enough space against more powerful rushers. He wasn't able to push players out on the edge enough, which it kind of makes me wonder, is Mauanoga going to move to guard?
I think that's something that you'll be able to tell with time. I think also what's worth noting is that Jackson Dart is a very mobile QB. And so because of that, you're going to need an offensive tackle that can anchor down, but not for long. So, yes, he's going to need to stay tough. The short arms could play a massive role in that, or they could really play to his strengths. They could keep a defender busy for just that right amount of time. And then Dart, we've seen him take off over and over again. It's not like he's going to stop that. It's no secret that Jackson Dart likes to run. And so I think you'll be able to tell very quickly if the shorter arms are something that the Giants have to worry about, or if all those other traits, how quick he is to get back in his stance, that's going to be something that's really, really necessary for the Giants and could play out really well for them.
And moving forward on his speed, like Jackson Dart likes to get out and run a lot. Having a quicker offensive tackle will really help with that.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the next team and next division, the Bears selected Dylan Thieneman at, I think was it 20th overall? Sorry, it's the one player I don't have in my notes for their overall selection.
They took him 25th overall.
25th.
Yeah.
And I really like this pick for Chicago. Chicago last season really didn't ask their safeties to play in the box against the run very much. They recognized that they had a talent deficiency on the defensive end, and so to make up for that, they used their safeties and corners a lot as ball hawks to try to get a lot of takeaways, which they did. They led the league in takeaways, both in fumbles and interceptions. And I think that's what Thieneman really is going to excel at. He's not a great tackler. I hate to start out on the negative, but he's not. In 2024, so the season before, he had a 13.1% missed tackle rate, which is really high. But he did drop it down to an 8.3% when he transferred to Oregon last season. And I think where he's at his best is reading the QB's eyes, playing in coverage, playing support, trying to jump on those routes and get interceptions, which is exactly what Chicago is looking to do.
Yeah, I think Chicago needed a safety, and they got a safety. I think there's a lot more possibility that he ends up being your average player. Unfortunately, that missed tackle rating is just a little too high for me to be dead set on him. But that being said, he has really good hands for a safety. He had 8 interceptions last year. He's going to be a type of player that could shine in some really big moments and make some huge plays for the Bears that the Bears need. The Bears had a very solid season last year. That is worth remembering always. And so They don't need a ton to push themselves forward, but that being said, he could be the guy that gives them just that extra boost that'll send them to the next level and take them to the Super Bowl.
I I think he could do it. I'm not super sold on Damon, to be honest. I just don't think he's that good of an athlete. I don't think he's not particularly fast. He's not going to be able to keep up with slot wide receivers. I think you were maybe slightly incorrect on the amount of interceptions he had. He had 2 interceptions last season, not 8. But he
I appreciate that fact check because my notes are
yeah,
all
no problem. No problem. He's very great in support. He can read a QB's eye as well.
Sorry,
He can
8 career interceptions. That's on me.
there yeah,
That's my bad. Okay.
and he's just I don't know. I just don't see super high upside. I think he's going to go in. I think he's going to be solid. I think he fits their scheme well, but maybe it's just cuz I've watched a lot of Caleb Downs that I'm looking at every other safety prospect and it's just not Caleb Downs. So, I don't know. I don't think this is a home run pick.
I think it's also hard because the Bears don't need a ton right now. They just don't. They kind of just need an extra push almost. And they took a player who I have faith that he could do something, but I don't have faith that he will do something. And so all of these players that we've talked about, and granted, all of these players that we've talked about have gone, apart from Mekhi Lemon, they've all gone, top 11 or more. So this is the 25th pick of the draft. That's worth noting. But that being said, all the other players, I've been really set on these guys will make an impact. A little bit less set here, but also the Bears don't need a huge impact. They just need a little push.
And again, they lost Kevin Byard, so they needed a safety. They needed a ball hawk. Maybe he'll have a very productive year, and maybe we'll look like idiots. Next team, the Packers. Didn't have a first-round pick. Next team, the Vikings. Now, the Vikings had a very interesting draft, one that they have faced a lot of criticism for. Mainly for their pick at 18th overall, they took Caleb Banks, the defensive tackle out of Florida. He's 6'6", 327 pounds. But he only played 3 games last season because he had a very, very major foot injury. I'll let you take over for a second.
So, I don't totally hate this pick. Let me start off with that. I think that Banks does have some upside. Like you said, he's a quick guy. He's a big defensive tackle that could be really solid in the NFL. That being said, he has now broken his foot multiple times since 2024. That's a problem. That's a big red flag. And
especially when you're 6'6", 300 something pounds.
Exactly. Typically, players don't go into the NFL and get injured less. That's not usually something that you see. So, in that sense, I think it's tough to not take a guy just because he's injury prone. But that being said, when you've broken your foot a couple of times already before you even make it to the NFL, that's probably a sign that it might happen again. So, once again, like we said about last pick, there is a possibility that we just look like massive idiots at the end of this, and Banks comes in, does a fantastic job, and becomes an All-Pro within 2 years. That is a possibility. He is a very solid defensive tackle. Do not get me wrong, but injury-prone players make me a little bit nervous for any team, and injury-prone players in college make me especially nervous. I'm going to change sports slightly. A player like Mike Trout has now been injured multiple times over the past 5 years. That has significantly lowered, his historical increase. But when he started out, he was putting up MVP caliber seasons year after year. Then you look at a player like Banks, he's not even in the NFL yet, and he's already had a broken foot. So it's kind of tough to look at a player like that and be dead set on him at pick number 18. That being said, he could be solid.
I want to take a different angle on the injury because you see a lot of players come into the NFL with injury problems. But one of the main issues for me about Banks' injury is that his game relies a lot on his quickness, especially his lateral quickness. The way that Banks really dominated in college was he's 6'6", 300 something pounds, and he's able to dart both back and forth, able to really quickly jump between offensive linemen, get in the backfield, disrupt runs, get sacks, and really be a dominant force. He's really big. He doesn't play at a great pad level. He doesn't get super low and able to like push up on defenders to create that kind of pressure and move them back. He wins by he's bigger than them and he's faster than them. That lack of technique combined with his injury luck, I'm just really skeptical about the pick. I'm worried that this is a player that relies a lot on his very unique physical skill set rather than his like technique, and we're about to see if he can even do that anymore. We barely saw him play last season.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting pick for sure. I mean, there's already been a lot of criticism about this pick and just kind of a lot of thoughts in general. It was a questionable one for sure. So to see what happens will definitely be interesting. And again, he could surprise us all. We haven't really seen him play in the past year. So for all we know, he's fantastic now. But typically, players that start breaking bones in college don't end up much better in the NFL. So we'll see what happens. I'm hopeful for him. I think that he has a good amount of potential, but I'm also a little bit nervous about how injury prone he is.
Exactly. Now moving on to the Lions. At pick 17, they took Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson, who's also 6'6" and 317. Now the Lions, I think they had a home run hit here. I don't think that Blake Miller's like one of the best offensive tackle prospects ever. But this is a team that is super reliant on, one, having an amazing O-line, and two, having an amazing run game. That's how they've won in recent years, and that's why they weren't as dominant last year, because it wasn't as good. This is a team that recently lost their center, Frank Ragnow. They lost Dan Skipper, and Taylor Decker is leaving after the season. Those are elite offensive linemen that are like no longer on the team. They needed to replenish this team. They still have Penei Sewell. They have the infrastructure there. They just needed one more piece to build it back up. And honestly, I think Blake Miller can do it.
Yeah, I think that for what the Lions needed, this was their home run pick, like you said. I think Miller is really solid. You know, he's a big guy. That's exactly what you're going to want. He's not massive compared to the NFL players, but he is going to be super dominant for the run game, and the Lions are also one of those teams that play really quick. So I think he's going to see a lot of success in that area. But finally, like you said, the Lions are losing a lot of guys. They need someone to bring it back, and Blake Miller is likely that guy, you know? When you have the 17th pick, that's going to be difficult for any team. The best of the best are going to be off the board, so you kind of have to figure out what you're going to go with, and I think Blake Miller was the right direction to go. I think he has a lot of potential for this Lions team, and I think the fact that he can kind of stay quick is going to allow him to bring a lot to this Lions team.
Yeah. Last season, I should say, in 2024, the Lions had the third best rushing attack. They had 149.4 yards per game. Last season, that dropped to 13th in the league at only 120.1 yards per game. And that was a lot because of their lack of O-line help. I think what Blake Miller's best trait is that he's very agile. He has a great recovery rate, and then combined with his long arms, looking back for offensive tackles, Blake Miller doesn't have that problem. He has long arms, not short arms. He's able to really recover. He's able to attack. He's able to attack quick rushers by pushing them outside. Again, using his long arms. But he still has a lot to learn. I think he's not a true game saving, season saving tackle. I think, especially since he played right tackle most of the time, he's probably going to play there again. Penei Sewell will move to left tackle. I think it's just a very, this is what the Lions needed. This is what they're getting. They're not going to be surprised either in the, wow, this was the greatest pick ever, or, oh, this was an absolute bust.
So I agree with you in some regard, specifically about just the talent. You know, you said it. multiple times, but the long arms are really going to play to his strengths. I disagree, though, in that this is a guy that was a 54 game starter for Clemson.
That's true.
You know, in terms of is he the game saving tackle type guy? Maybe, maybe not. But he has shown that he is incredibly consistent throughout his entire time in college. So he has a lot of that experience, and that's something that you don't see a lot with college players anymore. And especially, we just talked about Caleb Banks, who played, what did you say, 3 games last year? So the fact that he has 54 games in college under his belt, I think that's going to really play to his strengths, and I think that's going to allow him to take a little bit of the pressure off. For a player that plays a bunch in a lower D1 level team, that's going to be a big increase to get to the NFL. When you've played 54 games at Clemson, you know what a crowd sounds like. You know how to stay calm under pressure, and that's what you need to do as an offensive tackle.
Yeah. Moving from one offensive tackle to another, the Panthers selected at 19th overall Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. And this guy is 6'7", 315 pounds. He's got a true NFL build. He's strong. He's fast on his feet. He gets to the second level super well. He contains against speed and power using his long arms. He's able to really redirect, anchor down. But he only played 17 games throughout his entire college career, and now he's being asked to likely be the star tackle for Carolina.
Yeah, so first of all, in case you haven't noticed it, here on Draft Night's podcast, we like long arms for our offensive linemen. It's a good thing. That being said, I think Monroe Freeling has a lot of potential again. Like you said, he hasn't played a lot of games, and I'm very much against that. That's why I was such a fan of Blake Miller, because he has that experience. But I think that in the games that Freeling had, he really put on a performance. He did a good job of protecting the pocket. And that's something that's kind of overlooked. And especially for a team like the Panthers with Bryce Young as their QB, it's going to be important for him to protect the pocket. If he doesn't have that experience and therefore he's not able to hold it for long, that's why Bryce Young runs so often. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can really keep a defensive lineman down for long. And if Bryce Young is going to once again kind of have to occasionally put the team on his back and just run for it and pray. But I think that in the games that we saw him play, Freeling really excelled at protecting the pocket, keeping Gunnar Stockton safe. And because of that, I think that he actually is going to be a big plus for this Panthers team. Again, they weren't working with too much being at pick number 19, especially when tackles had been taken right before him. But still, I think that he could be a really big asset for this Carolina team.
I agree. Especially talking on protecting Bryce Young, the Panthers had the 12th best sack defense in the NFL. They only let up 35. So just adding another offensive tackle, you should see that go up. And especially considering Freeling had a 85.6 pass block rating, which is incredible. However, the last thing I really want to point out for Freeling is he had a only 61.3 run block rating. This guy is not a true run blocking tackle. He's not going to be able to really emphasize the Panthers' run game, which was only 20th in the league. I'm a little bit worried there. I think we're going to have to see it develop. But again, this is a guy who only played 17 games. It could go either way.
Yeah, and I don't think that right now the Panthers' run game isn't bad, but it relies really heavily on the option. And so because of that, I don't think you're going to see a huge increase without them also probably getting a running back. That's just a position where they're kind of in need right now. I think that it's going to be something that's going to have to develop. But like you said, I think Freeling is a very solid pick at 19 to keep the ball rolling for the Panthers as they're continuing to get better and they're showing a lot of growth as these years go on.
Yeah. Next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected at pick number 15, Ruben Bain Jr., the edge out of Miami. 6'2", 263 pounds. Let's just start out with the good. I feel like a lot of the bad for Ruben Bain has been overemphasized. For example, on the good, he is strong. He is crazy bendy. He's able to dip down under offensive tackles, get to the QBs immediately. Great first step. Heavy hands. Amazing against the run. Oh my goodness. Look at this guy's stats. He had 9.5 sacks, 15.5 tackles for a loss, 54 tackles overall, and was an All-American. This guy's production is off the charts already. And his ability to really contain on the edge, even though he's only 6'2", anchor down, and then shed the block and get to the running back is exactly what Tampa Bay needs, considering that they had, looking at this, oh my goodness, they had the fifth best run defense at 99.1 yards per game. So just adding a piece like Bane, that's already out of this world. Would you like to start out on the negative for Bane?
I think the negative, and it's really just the one negative that's talked about the most, so I guess we have to talk about it here on Draft Night's podcast. He's got some short arms. His arms
he does.
Are sub 31 inches, which, just for reference, that is very short. Typically, you'll see longer arms at about 34. So the fact that Bane has 31 or sub 31 inch arms could be a problem. That being said, I actually have faith in Bane this season. I think that he could still get around that because of how fast he is and because of kind of how shifty he is when playing. I'm an optimist, so I think that could be possible. That being said, the dude's got some short arms, and that's
to
that's
put in
something you can't really
perspective.
overlook.
To put it in perspective, how short of arms these are, he had the shortest arms in the history of the combine for a defensive end. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't add too much to that.
You can't deny the production. You can't deny the need that Tampa Bay has. They were only 19th in sacks. They really could use like a dominant edge like Bane. But I just don't know. Those arms are really short, and especially considering that he's also only 6'2". He's not like he's fast. Like he's really fast. He's really shifty, but he's not like lightning quick. You can't deny the production, but I could easily see him becoming kind of a bust. But maybe I'm just saying that because I'm a rival of the Bucks.
I think 15 might have been a little high for him, but I'm an optimist about Bane. I actually think that he could do a lot of damage, and we saw it in college, so I'm hopeful for him. I think it might work out, but it's going to be interesting, and it's really going to speak as to whether our long arm argument has any validity. So we'll find out.
Moving on, the Falcons. We didn't have our first round pick. Moving on, the Saints. The Saints at 8th took Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State University. 6'2", 203, was going into the season the projected first wide receiver off the board. He dealt with a lot of injuries. He had hamstring injuries on both legs, but still managed to have a productive 711 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 61 receptions. Now, I want to start out with the injury before we get into his actual physical abilities. He has a long injury history. He tore multiple ligaments in his knee, including his ACL. He's broken his collarbone, and he's, again, like I mentioned, dealt with hamstring injuries to both legs throughout all of last season. So there are some durability concerns, especially a wide receiver going into a wide receiver room like the Saints that already had injury concerns with Chris Olave. So there is a lot of problems there, and that's why he slipped down to only 8th. But I want you to talk about the good for a second.
Yeah, I mean, and there is a lot of good for this guy. He's really strong as a wide receiver. I think for the Saints, he could be really productive. The Saints did perfectly reasonable in receiving last year, or in passing last year. And what I mean by reasonable, they were pretty middle of the road. They weren't great. They weren't terrible. And so in terms of that, they averaged 219 yards a game. So they were perfectly reasonable. Yeah. But I think that I have to stick with my mindset of players that are injury prone in college are typically injury prone in the NFL. And
Yeah.
so while I think that Tyson will be productive, I'm nervous that he's going to get injured a lot. I mean, you were listing out the injuries, and it's kind of one of those lists that
It's
just
not
keeps
small.
going. And we just said it about Banks. Um, player or Caleb Banks for those wondering. You know, injuries are a big thing, and especially in the NFL, they're a big thing. And for a player like Jordan Tyson, who's a bigger wide receiver overall, not too tall, but a guy that can be physical, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he'll translate to the NFL. And I'm nervous that he's going to be very
Mhm.
injury prone in the NFL.
To be honest, I'm probably a little biased to be negative towards Tyson and all of the Saints organization, so I want to keep this fast, talking about the good with Tyson. He's a great route runner, especially in the red zone, which is what you want a lot. Very shifty. He's got a crazy vertical, sticky hands. He just catches everything that comes his way. He's got the speed. He's got the acceleration. I already said it. I want to emphasize the route running. Oh my goodness. He's able to do almost everything. Very frustrating that he's going to my direct rival. I really hope Tyler Shuck sucks next season. I think he's an overrated bum who's getting way too overhyped. He should not have been second in Rookie of the Year. That's all I'll say about that. Go Falcons. Moving on.
The man has his opinions.
um, moving on to the Seahawks. They had a very interesting pick because they picked Jadarian Price, the running back out of Notre Dame. 5'11", 203 pounds. You know, a lot of the time when a running back gets taken in the NFL draft, they were usually their running back one. Jadarian Price was not. He had 113 carries for 674 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry. He ran a 4.49 in the 40. This guy's fast. He's elusive. However, why was he not the first? Why was he not running back one for Notre Dame?
So let's start with the positive, right? Jadarian Price is a solid running back. Okay, I don't. There's a lot of good about this pick, and also, the Seahawks are coming off just a mildly successful year. So it's tough to look at that team and say, oh my goodness, like you killed your team with this pick. No, and I think that he can bring some positive as well. I think he might be a good running back too for the Seahawks as well. And I am so excited. You know what? Ethan, I'm going to make an executive decision just because I can.
Oh,
I would love to sit here and talk about Jadarian Price. I would. I really would. But
mhm.
my favorite player from this draft is the
We're skipping
exact
to the
reason.
Cardinals.
Oh, we're skipping to the Cardinals. Is the exact reason why Jadarian Price is maybe a questionable pick. And that is because Jeremiah Love was taken at 3, Notre Dame's running back 1. In my personal opinion, outside of Fernando Mendoza, who's just kind of the easy one, I love Jeremiah Love as easily one of, if not the best player in this draft. And I'll be honest, I do not love that he ended up at the Cardinals, and I'll expand on that in just a second. But I think that Jeremiah Love is a fantastic running back. I think he's going to be so solid in the NFL. I hope that I don't look like a dummy in a year after this, and that he is as productive as I think he can be, and I don't think he will be because of the Cardinals' offensive line. That's a different story. But he is so fast. I think he's so dominant, and I'm so excited to see Jeremiah Love in the NFL.
Yeah, when it comes to Jeremiah Love's physicals, holy Lord, this guy is one of the best running backs I've ever watched, just from the college level. His sidestep, his ability to move diagonally, to cut into running lanes at full speed, absurd. It should not be possible. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash at the combine. In high school, his 100-meter time was a 10.54. This guy is fast. He is very fast. Jadarian Price was pretty fast. Jeremiah Love is real fast, and he's elusive. He's stronger than he looks. He is productive. Like, we can look at Jadarian Price. We can say, oh, the Seahawks needed a running back. They run the ball a lot. They lost Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet's injured. Screw all that. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Jeremiah Love is way more pressing of a conversation.
So, it pains me to do this, but there are some cons to Jeremiah Love. And the part that pains me about it is that they have nothing to do with Jeremiah Love. So, in terms of talent, he has it all. We just said that. He has it all. But the question is, did the Cardinals really need Jeremiah Love? And an NFL analyst, I can't remember who, said it perfectly, I think, during the draft, and that was, I love the player, I don't love the pick. And that is because the Cardinals didn't really need a running back. They just signed Tyler Algier, and then also they have James Conner back for another year. And then on top of that, their team gave up the 5th most amount of sacks last year. Their offensive line is just not very good.
It's not good.
In that sense, the Giants did it a few years ago by drafting Saquon before they had a solid offensive line, and Saquon's production just wasn't where it could have been. I'm not saying it wasn't solid, and I do think Jeremiah Love is still going to be fantastic, but it isn't where it could have been because I think that the Cardinals are a team that needs to rebuild their foundation, and they tried to get a star, and they need to just build their base up first. So I think that Love will be fantastic. I really do, but I don't know if that Cardinals offensive line is going to be able to support him.
One of the reasons why it's been a very cold take in draft season to say you shouldn't draft a running back high is because running backs, typically speaking, run out of gas by the midway, maybe the very beginning of their second contract. The amount of hits that they're taking, the amount that they're getting relied on, especially when they are a star running back, puts a lot of wear and tear on the body. And that's why you typically see the best running backs, they stick for a very short amount of time, great prime, and then they kind of fall off. And especially considering this Cardinals team, bad O-line, QB problems, bad defense, bad secondary, bad interior defensive line. Their wide receivers are solid, but not like elite. They have the best tight end in the game, though. Like, this is a team with so many holes, and like you said, running back wasn't one of them. They have three solid running backs already on the team. I don't understand why they're taking Jeremiah Love here. They're not going to be able to maximize his talents.
Yeah, I mean, I can't add much to that. It pains me that he went to the Cardinals just because I don't think that they needed him, and I don't think that they can fully use him to the best of his ability. But, oh my goodness, I think if Jeremiah Love ends up on the right team, he's going to be so good because this guy is so fast. He was so fun to watch in college. I mean, I would find myself just watching his highlights randomly just because I could.
Yeah.
I mean,
he is absurd.
He's so good. I can't say enough good things about this guy, and I hope that he really makes the most out of his time in Arizona, and then I hope that either Arizona figures it out or he goes to a different team where he can really shine.
I know we're saying it a lot, but it's really hard to describe how good Jeremiah Love's film is, so just take some time and look it up for yourself. We're going to obviously skip the 49ers because they didn't have a draft pick in the first round. They traded down out of it. However, maybe the most controversial pick in the entire first round, have to save it for the very end, Ty Simpson, quarterback out of Alabama, got taken 13th overall by the Los Angeles Rams. Much to the dismay, if you are a body language expert, of their head coach, Sean McVay.
Okay, before we get into this, I'm mixed on that video. Like, I don't think that we should be reading too much into this video of Sean McVay not appearing happy that they took him. I don't know if he was thrilled. He really did not seem happy about this. But
Sean
I
McVay's
don't
just
think that
such
we
an
should read too
energetic
much into
guy.
it. Like, yeah, it definitely makes you question it a little bit, but I wouldn't hold it against him too harshly yet. That being said, be prepared to hold it against him in the future, but
Mhm.
not right now.
Just let's start with the good before we dive into the why. Ty Simpson he was pretty productive last in his sole season starting for Alabama. He didn't win the job over Jalen Milroe for 2 seasons, but we can get into that later. He had 3,282 yards passing, 27 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. He was very accurate. He made some high-level throws at the beginning of the season before his injury, which didn't knock him out of the game, but you could see a noticeable decline. He was able to layer throws very well. He is a true pocket passer. He was accurate. Now, getting into the cons, he doesn't have a great arm. He's only 6'1", which is not very tall. He's not mobile at all. He can barely move. He, I don't see him as a very high upside guy.
I think that Ty Simpson would have been a fantastic second or third round QB take.
Mm-hmm.
I think that his accuracy is unquestionable, and I do think that that is where he's going to see his greatest success. That being said, the Rams traded for this pick
Yeah,
with Atlanta.
traded to us.
Yeah. Um, I don't think they needed a QB at 13.
No.
Maybe it was worth getting one for the future because Stafford will be likely retiring soon.
Yeah.
But he's not retiring right now. You do not need a QB right now. And, I mean, as a Falcons fan, I'm sure that you understand the feeling of drafting a QB right after getting a QB. But it's a weird feeling, and I don't know if Ty Simpson was really the guy that you wanted at 13. I mean, it's a questionable pick. It makes you kind of wonder, where their heads were in terms of, are they trying to, build him for the future? Is he going to sit for a couple years? It's a confusing pick for sure. And while, accuracy, fantastic, he's got decent arm power.
Yeah,
He's got a lot of
not.
room to grow in a bunch of areas. And he could sit behind Stafford, learn a ton, and be great. But it's not typically where
I don't see
you
it.
draft somebody at 13.
Let's start with the now before we get to the future. The Rams probably win the Super Bowl if they manage to hold out in that NFC Championship game against the Seahawks. They were, in my opinion, the second best team throughout the entirety of last season. Their QB Matthew Stafford won the MVP not handily. Drake May was very good, but he had an absurd season. This is a team that is near perfect. They're right there. They have so much good for them. And I feel like there is a universe where maybe they win this next season. Stafford retires either the end of the season or the next, and Ty Simpson slots in and continues the dynasty going forward, continues the success. But I just think that in 2 or 3 years, we're going to look back on this and go, wow, the Rams really could have used a Mekhi Lemon at 13, and maybe that would have taken them over the hump. Maybe if they lose again to Seattle in the NFC Championship game, we go, oh, that 13th pick could have done so much good, and they used it on Ty Simpson.
I think it's really fitting that we do Jeremiah Love and Ty Simpson back to back because I feel like you're looking at two players with a lot of talent. I don't know if Ty Simpson was a first round, definitely not a 13 pick, but whether he was first round or not, that's debatable. But I don't think he was needed. You have an
No.
MVP QB. I don't disagree that they need somebody in the backup. That's fine. You're going to take your first round draft pick where you traded to get this pick, and you're going to use that on a QB when you don't need one. It confuses me. And honestly, we talked a lot about a couple of confusing picks through the first round. This was the one to me that was really kind of just jaw dropping because
Yeah.
it was so unnecessary and it was so, you know, it was a. I'm gonna get clipped by, in the future for this, but like, it's Ty Simpson. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
this
I
is
don't
not
see him as
Patrick
the guy.
Mahomes.
Right.
This is
I don't
not.
see him as the guy taking Matthew Stafford's place and becoming an MVP in the next 2 or 3 years. Now, I can't wait until he becomes the MVP in a year and a half, and you know, the entire world is looking at me saying you're an idiot. But I don't know. It's just it confuses me as a pick. I don't think it was a great pick. I don't. I mean, he has some good qualities. I don't think he has anything great. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing about it. Like I might be getting like too over like excited about this. Maybe a little too. This is Ty Simpson. This is not like a project QB that you're gonna sit behind Aaron Rodgers like Jordan Love. He's a 6'1", like okay arm, immobile quarterback that is gonna sit behind Matthew Stafford for a year, maybe 2 years. And sure, maybe sitting behind Stafford, maybe having McVay will allow him to like go in and be like, wow, this guy is amazing. His upside is just so low to me. This like especially when you're a team that's on the like verge of a Super Bowl. Just like use this pick on someone that's going to help you win now. Just take it. You look back on teams that almost won all the time and you wonder what could they have done. And I think we're going to look back on this Rams team this next season. We're going to say they could have won the Super Bowl if they didn't just take Ty Simpson.
Well, folks, we're happy that you enjoyed 91. Ethan's only a little emotional about the Ty Simpson pick.
It's so stupid. It's
I think
so
the
dumb.
most confusing pick from Draft Night's podcast definitely goes to Ty Simpson at the 13 in round one. But I'm excited to see what happens. I am relatively confident. Unfortunately, it'll be a bust. But maybe
I will stake a lot on it. I will stake a lot on
soon.
this.
All right, I'm not gonna count him out completely yet because he's accurate. I don't have much else to add.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
have much else to add. He's a QB that can throw the ball accurately. Which
Wow.
most NFL QBs can do, but that's fine. So, look, at the end of the day, he did take his team to the college football playoffs. He's a very solid QB. You know, to anybody watching that has no idea who Ty Simpson is, he's still a very solid QB. He played for Alabama. He took his team to the college football playoffs. I just don't know if he's a first.
I should
round.
hope he would do that playing for Alabama. Let's remember that he couldn't even win the job against Jalen Milroe for 2 seasons. Guess where Jalen Milroe is? Stuck in the depth chart somewhere in the NFL.
I mean, I can't show emotion quite like this right now. Yeah. I mean, you said it. There. Yeah. We got about the same feelings on Ty Simpson here. Apparently, Sean McVay has the same feelings
so
as us.
Nasty. I think in a couple of years we're just gonna see. We're gonna look back on this, and I think Sean McVay knows it. I think like most people watching the draft know it. If there's a universe where Ty Simpson takes over for Matthew Stafford,
to him winning MVP, and
you know what? I will
stake
stake it right now. I will stake it right now. If Ty Simpson takes over for Matthew Stafford and is even able to do not even the same, but keep the Rams like on the same trajectory even, and I'll be loose with it, I will run across the entirety of San Francisco 7 times. Actually, no, I'll do it more. I will run around the entirety of the Bay Area. I will do an entire loop on foot.
I got nothing to add to that. I'm not making that bet. I have some hope for Ty Simpson from nowhere, but I do have hope for him. But I look forward to that happening. Now I'm really a Ty Simpson fan, like die-hard Ty Simpson. I would love to see that. But yeah, there you have it for NFC round 1 picks.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week for our AFC reactions. I doubt any will be as emotional as my reaction to Ty Simpson, But thank you again for listening. See you next time.